Happy Monday and happy President's Day. Up to 15% of couples have trouble trying to conceive, and each year the number of infertility rates continue to rise. And this pattern doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. So it's really important to know that trouble with conception and miscarriages are really common, and you are not alone in this struggle. So if we wish to grow our family, we must do what we can within our means and the comfort to support our fertility. And this is why we're really excited today to be chatting on IG Live with Courtney Saye. Courtney is a functional fertility practitioner at Thrive Functionally. During this live, we're going to discuss the buzz over some supplements, why you might want to slow down your workouts, the importance of lab work, and other important things to consider when trying to conceive. So,
Hello.
oh, here you are.
Hi.
Hi, Courtney. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. We had a little celebration Saturday night. So
Oh, nice.
fun.
Is today the official day or Saturday is the official day?
Saturday I turned 42, which
Oh.
actually feels really good. I was reflecting and I was like, 40 is with where I'm at right now actually feels really good. So
You don't look 40.
thank you.
Say you're true. I'll believe it.
Like it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and tell us a little bit about your background and like how you became a fertility specialist.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to keep it brief while providing enough details. So, really, it was my own fertility struggles that I went through. So, when I was building my family, I had my son, and then I got pregnant easily with him, got pregnant easily again, and then had a what's called a missed miscarriage at 17 weeks with my second pregnancy. So, I went for my anatomy scan. The baby didn't have a heartbeat anymore. I had a GNC and thought, well, I get pregnant easily. This will be, I'll get pregnant again. I think I was bearing my grief in that, actually, trying to avoid it because I didn't know how to deal with it yet. And I didn't get pregnant easily. I dealt with years of unexplained infertility after that. And now that I've been through functional training and certification, I know that there were biochemical markers in my body that were indicating there were actual problems going on, but my providers were ignoring it. Like, I actually had, like, one example is a test that was done with my fertility doctor to look for endometriosis, and they saw signs of cellular damage on my liver, and he made a joke about drinking, but didn't tell me anything about how the liver impacts fertility. Like, I know now that, our thyroid hormones are converted in the liver. Estrogen is detoxified through the liver. It's super important. But the traditional practitioners I was working with ignored all of that. So anyway, the symptoms I was dealing with were around liver congestion, but didn't know it. Some thyroid issues, some gut issues. I had acne, headaches, like very irregular periods, food sensitivities, things like that. And they got progressively worse. I did end up having my daughter, luckily, after a few years of unexplained infertility. I think because I was still in my 20s and my body finally was able to carry a healthy pregnancy, but my health continued to get worse until I found functional medicine. And when I found it and turned my own health around and decided to get certified, I was thinking about where to specialize and who to work with. And I certified as what's called an FDNP. It's a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. They're a great group. There's over 1,000 of us with very active practices now around the world, a lot of us in the US. And anyway, I kept coming back to how impactful my fertility journey was for me. Like, the hardest thing I've ever been through, and how I didn't ever have any support. I didn't have anyone in my corner. I didn't have the right tests to identify what was actually going on in my body. It was just like, everything looks normal, so try fertility treatments, which didn't work. I did try that route too. And I knew that I wanted to be that person that I never had for myself. So I got advanced trainings after I did my base level certification in hormone, gut, thyroid health, and functional blood chemistry, so that I could work with clients who are trying to get pregnant.
That is amazing. I feel like all your clients can really benefit from your own personal experience, because then you have a whole level of understanding, not just like physically, but I think also psychologically. So this is a very stressful journey, kind of exactly like you said, lack of support, and people don't tend to talk about it
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, they don't. And a lot of clients come to me. Some people will come to me for preconception planning because they know how important it is. But a lot of clients come to me when they've been dealing with unexplained infertility for some time. Some of them have been through multiple cycles of fertility treatments. A few of them have loans outstanding because they spent, $50,000, $70,000 on IVF that didn't work. And they're in this state of like every month is life or death. They're living in 2-week increments. And it takes them a minute before they sign up for the program to realize that like taking a beat and getting a view of what's actually happening in your body is slowing down for a few months, but it actually speeds you up. So they're all in this like state of fight or flight and gripping, living in 2-week increments when they come to me. And I get it because I've been there. It's not like, no, just let that go. It's fine. It's like, no, I totally get it. But here's why there's a better way forward.
You almost answered my next question, because my next question is, exactly talking about a functional fertility practitioner. So what is that exactly, and
Yeah.
how can one be, helpful for those who are trying to conceive?
Yeah. So there are a few different types of people who work with functional medicine for fertility clients. Some of them are naturopathic doctors, some of them are nutritionists and dietitians, and some of them are folks like me who have a functional certification. The way that my program works and a lot of other practitioners, regardless of what their background is we run a full panel of functional labs when you come into the program. So that people are like, what does that mean? I had all the labs run. When you're working with a fertility doctor or even like your PCP or OBGYN, they're really going to look for like fertility issues at your reproductive system. They're going to say like, are your tubes open? Like, let's run what's called like your day 3 hormone markers, which are high level, like scratching the surface hormones. Are you ovulating? If you get to a fertility doctor, they're going to have your husband run a semen analysis, and all that's fine. And sometimes there's answers there, but a lot of times there's not really answers in those tests. And we run this full panel of functional labs that's looking at your gut. Your gut is super important. Your microbiome plays a big role in this. How's your liver or how's detoxification looking? There's some genetic components here. What does your HPA axis look like? How's your body biochemically handling stress? How about micronutrients and minerals? Like, depending on background, you could be eating super healthy, but if you took hormonal birth control pills, if you've had a lot of toxin exposure, if you were vegan or vegetarian, those micronutrient mineral levels are way out of whack for optimal fertility. What did I miss? Thyroid markers. A lot of doctors will run like very high level baseline thyroid markers, and their lab ranges are super wide. So we're looking at a full thyroid panel to see if like all of the thyroid hormones, plus if there's any autoimmunity involved, and we look at it from a functional lens, which is a lot tighter. So we're going to spot thyroid problems a lot sooner than a traditional physician would. So anyway, all that said, we run all of those labs, we do a deep intake, and we put together customized protocols for folks based on what we find on these labs. And the difference between working with somebody in the functional space versus traditional is they are very focused on like, here is your diagnosis, or unexplained infertility to me is kind of a lacking diagnosis, but the path forward is like drugs and medical interventions. We're focused on what imbalances are going on in these systems in the body that are interconnected, and let's help you heal those root causes so that you've got some sustainable healing and some sustainable optimization of your fertility. So there's a lot more involved. There's a lot of support of like lifestyle as well as supplements that go along with it throughout the program, but that's kind of how it looks.
I think it's also good for people to know that you can actually see both your traditional doctor and then also see a functional doctor, because then you actually get good of the both sides. And it's always good to get a second opinion.
100%.
Because I think some people might think, okay, if I need to switch to a functional medicine doctor, it's telling me I don't need to see my, traditional doctors anymore. You still need to do that birth. If you need IVF, you still do it, but the functional medicine will help you kind of address the root cause and also facilitate this process.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm not at all anti-Western medicine, but it's very different, right? Like it's like you go to a mechanic for your car and you go to a nail tech to do your nails. Like you wouldn't go to the opposite for the opposite. These are very different approaches to the same problem, but it's looking at root cause versus a treatment plan. And I do have clients, just depending on a variety of personal circumstances who will get to the end of the program and they'll go back to their fertility doctor because they've got frozen embryos and they're in their 40s and they don't want to see what natural cycles look like. They don't want to waste any time. And there's no shame in that, but why not prepare your body fully for those, big expenses so that you have more success if you are going to go back to fertility treatments?
Absolutely. And also not just preparing your body for yourself, it's also for this coming baby that's going to grow inside of you, which is also super important if you have good nutrition lined up, have good lifestyle habits and everything.
Yeah, we don't, I feel like this is another place where people who are in infertility are you get super focused on getting to baby. And I get it because I've been there. And some of my clients are in secondary infertility, so they know, what it's like to have a baby at home already, and that you need that energy. But I tell them all the time, like, it is an added bonus that when you do get that baby, after you go through this process, you're going to be in better health. You're going to have some sustainable lifestyle changes too that are going to make it easier for you to be a good parent and enjoy parenting. Yeah.
Why do you think that, the fertility struggle are becoming increasingly common?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. And I mean, you nailed it. It's becoming increasingly common. Some of the statistics around the reduction in sperm quality over time are scary. And women are having issues too. So we're at about, depending on what you look at, like 1 in 6 couples will have trouble in the US. I think it's multifaceted. I think that we lead very stressful lifestyles where we're never off. Like we are always on, and I'm guilty of it too. I have trouble putting the phone away and disconnecting. I love what I do for work and I never want to like turn it off with my clients. So I have to actively work on that. But that leaves our body constantly in this fight or flight state where we're always available and always expected to be on for everyone. And then the environment, right? Like the things we're exposed to. It's not the same as it was 2 generations ago with the chemicals in our environment, the products we're using, the food we're eating. I talk a lot in my community about, with women in particular, like personal care products and makeup contain so much stuff that can disrupt the endocrine system. And most people, like, I didn't know before my job as a process. I'm like, oh, I'm using kind of clean stuff, or there's a lot of like green marketing where they call it clean, but it's really not. And the household products we're using, like all of that stuff is increasing your toxic burden. And I don't know how you talk about it, but the way I think about it is not necessarily to get to like a no tox lifestyle. I think that's kind of BS, right? And it's possible. I mean, I live in Southern California and a pretty good air quality, but like just breathing the air, even here close to the ocean, is going to have chemicals in it. But I talk about it as in like reducing the toxic load. A physician I studied a little bit with talks about it like a rain barrel impact, where a rain barrel can fill up and fill up and fill up, but eventually it's going to overflow with water. That's how our bodies are with toxins. Like you can only have so much before your body starts to have symptoms and problems, infertility, other symptoms that you're dealing with. So I really encourage my clients, my community, my audience to reduce their toxic load, to not go crazy and freak out and create more anxiety in their lives, but to make better choices once they like know better, do better.
Love it. Love it. It's pretty much the same message. We often also tell people we don't want them to be stressed out, because when you're stressed out, your cortisol goes high.
Yeah.
And that's not good either. And that's going to impact other organs. You're trying to reduce endocrine disrupting chemical, and then if you elevate your cortisol, that's no good.
100%.
You recently had a great post with tips for helping people conceive this year. And then we're going to ask some follow-ups. Like, first of all, like, you mentioned about gentle movements versus rigorous workouts. So why is that?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and this is for women in particular, but intense exercise is a stressor on our body. And sometimes it can be a good stress. But a lot of times, especially when your body is already overstressed, and if you're dealing with infertility, I promise you, your body is overstressed because it's a lot. It's too much. And so what we're looking for, kind of like we talk about the toxins, is like reducing stress load where possible. Like you can't get rid of your job and not pay your mortgage, but you can reduce stress levels on your body where possible. And stress is not, I think a lot of people in general think of stress as like those things I just talked about, like your job and your mortgage. But there's 3 kinds of stress that will impact your cortisol levels and dysregulate your HPA axis. They are biochemical, which we find on functional labs that we run. They are emotional, like I'm super stressed out or I had a loss in my life. And they are physical, like I'm under eating. We see a lot of women who are not getting enough calories and protein and nutrition in their diet, or over exercising. So for the vast majority of my clients, there are some that are not in this category, but like 98% of them, I tell them to pull off of the intense exercises because their bodies are already under so much stress that they're in a state of HPA axis dysregulation, like their cortisol is out of whack, and they don't need more stress. So I tell them to focus on gentle movement. Exercise is important. You need to move, but like focus on walking, yoga, Pilates, things that aren't, some weightlifting is okay, but nothing that's putting like a ton of stress on your body. And then I tell them like, if you are love it and you need to get a little bit of it in, make sure you're doing it in your follicular phase, which is after your period stops, before you ovulate. After ovulation, it's definitely not helpful while your hormones are going off the cliff.
Yeah, I think it's also really hard for women that, you're going through all of this already. You still want to look good.
Yeah.
And you still want to eat whatever you want to eat. And that makes it really hard to, changing your entire lifestyle during this fertility phase of your life.
Yeah. And I think it can be hard, especially for those of us in our like 20s to 40s who grew up with like diet culture in your face. And now we've got constant media in our face, right? Telling us like what the right diet is, what the right exercise is. You want to look good, you want to feel good. And the truth of the matter is, especially with exercise, a lot of times when you take a step back and you're putting less stress on your body, people see more physical gains too, because your body, if it doesn't feel safe, is not going to do what you want it to do. I have the same conversation with women about getting enough nutrition. They're terrified to eat 2,500 calories a day. That feels incredibly stressful to them. And a lot of them come to me eating like on the bottom, I've seen like 800 to 900 calories a day, but a lot of them are around 1,500, which is just not enough to support hormone production. Yeah. And they're like, I'm scared to gain weight, but their bodies are in this state of like almost metabolic shutdown where they're holding on to everything they take in. And you actually can be in a better like weight regulation when you're eating enough and your metabolism kicks back on. So
that makes so much sense. So many people like actually take generic prenatal supplements. So what's your recommendations for supplementing for an individual's pregnancy?
yeah, so couple things. One, if you're going to take a generic prenatal, make sure it's super high quality. Do not buy your vitamins on Amazon, please. Go to a reputable distributor or a vitamin shop in town if you're not working with a practitioner, and make sure it's good quality ingredients. I am obviously biased, but I'm always going to tell you that your best bet is running a full panel of functional labs to see what your body actually needs. I talked about this earlier on my page, but I'll give you one example. CoQ10, Biquinol is super popular with people for increasing cellular health. There's been some studies around egg quality. It's a great supplement, but if you don't know what's going on biochemically in your body, you can take too much of it. And I have a client right now who wasn't even taking a very high dose, but was taking it regularly and had digestive issues going on. And we got her micronutrient panel back, and her CoQ10 levels were like through the roof. And one of the side effects of that is nausea. And she's like, I'm not taking that much. So it's really hard to know biochemically how your body is going to react to different supplements. So I don't recommend taking a ton of different stuff just because you read online that like this might be good for fertility or your friend took it, because it can, maybe like neutrally be wasting your money, and at worst could be doing more damage than good. So if you can't afford to work with somebody that's a practitioner, like make sure you're getting a good prenatal from a reputable distributor. But I'm always going to recommend functional testing to see what your body actually needs.
That makes so much sense, because I think like a lot of these recommended range for supplements, they're so wide.
Yeah.
And that does not really take into account your personal characteristics, like your metabolism, because it was based on like 90% or even less of population. And then the sample size is small, the base is really small, so you don't actually know what exactly you need. Yeah, this approach is so much better, much more personalized.
Yeah, I'm all about like data. I'm very analytical, and this is an emotional process when people are trying to get pregnant. But when we get the labs in front of us, like we're looking at data, we're looking at what we actually need, what's actually wrong, and then we can create targeted protocols based on what actually works scientifically for what your body needs. So, yeah.
So how important is sleep while trying to conceive, and what are some things we can do to assist ourselves to getting more of it?
Sleep is super important. The studies that are out most recently talk about how low melatonin levels can be associated with like bad pregnancy or less there are studies around fertility treatment. So they're like less people are getting pregnant with low melatonin levels, and people are like, I need to take melatonin. Maybe. So this is one that I don't recommend you just go out and grab. But we do run a test that gives us melatonin levels with clients. And if they're low, we will supplement for a while we're working on the lifestyle factors to get sleep quality in a better place. So here's the spiel I give all of my clients with sleep. You want to get at least 7, probably 8 hours a night. You want to get to bed by 10, 11 at the very latest and get that sleep in because your body, your liver is doing a lot of detoxifying in the middle of those hours, and you want to be in deep REM sleep. You want your room to be dark. I recommend room darkening curtains, all the electronics out of the bedroom, like any little lights that are on like the TV or something, cover those up so that it's fully dark. The ideal temperature for good sleep is 68 degrees. So you want it to be somewhere around there. If you're too hot, it's very hard to get into good, deep quality sleep. And if you're able to turn your Wi-Fi off at night, that's another big one. People are like, how do I do that? If you go on, there's a bunch of companies that sell them, but if you just go on Amazon and grab like a remote control for a plug, you plug it into the wall, you plug your Wi-Fi router into that, and either on your phone, there's apps, or just with like a remote control switch, you can flip the Wi-Fi off at night, and that helps reduce the EMFs that your body is exposed to for at least a few hours. Because we're all working around Wi-Fi. You can't get away from it all day. This is one of my other things where I'm like, don't go crazy and stress yourself out. But if you can give your body that chance to be away from it for a few hours, that's a good thing. I think I hit all of it on sleep. Yeah.
I feel like the easiest is probably set a timer to turn off your Wi-Fi by 10 p.m. Right? Like then you don't have to worry about it, and then that's like a time to tell you, hey, stop, rest. Was this time to rest?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So you also mentioned as cellular health. So what is cellular health, and then how can we support it?
Okay, so this is one that I like to talk about, especially when I'm talking about reproductive longevity, because I'll get a lot of people in my community, and then I work with a lot of clients that are between like 37 and 41, 42 and wanting to have a baby. And they're like, oh my God, I'm over the age of 35. I can't get pregnant. Well, here's the thing about reproductive longevity. As we age, our cellular health tends to decline because of toxins we're exposed to, stress, or diets, all the things in our lives if we're not supporting our cellular health. So we work a lot on supporting overall cellular health by supporting the drainage pathways in your body, and then doing any detoxification that needs to be done. This is with clients, right? So we'll know like you've got a gut infection or you've got dysbiosis going on in the gut, for example. We'll get that junk out, and then we'll support building up the immune system and cellular health. CoQ10 is a great one for cellular health. And again, it's usually like pretty well tolerated, but I just had a client who was on a pretty regular dose and it was a little bit high. But we work on supporting cellular health through supplements, and then lifestyle happens too. Once any like junk that needs to be eliminated is out.
We obviously value all the lab work stuff, it's particularly when people are trying to conceive. So you mentioned about looking liver and also hormone panels, thyroid. What else should a person be looking for?
Yeah. So I know we've talked about thyroid, gut, like liver and detox capabilities there, micronutrient and mineral status. I know you all are looking at toxins, and that's one that we are doing ad hoc, but I am thinking about digging in more fundamentally because of like, I think the latest statistic, and you probably know this one off the top of your head, but the latest stat I read is that women are exposed to like 186 chemicals every day. So that's another one that can come into play there early on and be problematic. A lot of the protocols we run for gut eradication are going to be very helpful with pulling toxins and heavy metals out of the body too. But those are the labs. I'm trying to think of anything else. Sometimes if there's a known mold exposure, we'll also run a mycotoxins test because that can really, like, it can be hard to get through a healing protocol or actually see progress if you've got a mold exposure. Food sensitivities, I just told a client the other day who came in, like, sometimes they can be helpful, but typically I don't run food sensitivity up front because a lot of times it's the imbalances going on in the gut that are causing the food sensitivities. And once we clean that up, the food sensitivities will dissipate. But sometimes there's a case where food sensitivity testing up front also makes sense.
I also feel like, yeah, while these functional tests are, good for conception and infertility, but I also feel that everyone should be taking these tests like once a year because these numbers could constantly changing, and then you can use this data to help you, eat better, sleep better, and then or supplement better. So it almost feel like everyone should have it once a year.
I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head that I talk about sometimes with my clients and audience is that what's good for your fertility is good for your overall health. So anything that I'm recommending is going to be targeted to make sure that you can get and stay pregnant. And when you get to a place where you can get and stay pregnant, you're going to be in better health. Like they're not, you can't separate the two. So yeah, you're right.
So how can someone work with you, and what does the session look like?
Yeah. So I work with clients inside of a one-on-one program where they come in and they run the full panel of functional labs. They do a deep intake. We do an onboarding call while we're waiting for those lab results to come back. And we work through some of the lifestyle things we've been talking about, like diet, getting their diet and exercise tuned in and sleep. And then we get their lab results back and we work through protocols with them. The first one is always micronutrients and minerals to make sure they've got enough cellular energy to get through any gut protocols that we would do next to eradicate any junk that's going on in the body. Which takes us to the back end of our program. It's 6 months long. The last like month 5 and 6 are really program wrap up, making sure they have the right tools to help them get pregnant quickly and know how to use some of the tools that are available at home now that are a little more sophisticated than like the ovulation predictors that we had when I was in that 10 years ago. Yeah.
That is amazing. Anything else you'd like to share?
I don't know. Like there's lots. I could talk about this all day long, right? But I just like I feel super passionate about this and have a vision for where we could go in the future. Like one by one, each woman that we can help go from this like state of frustration and almost hopelessness when they come in if they've been through infertility to like realizing getting to the root cause of what's going on in their bodies can provide their baby they've always dreamed about and lasting health. And I have a vision for the future. My daughter now is just turned 12 and I think about her and how my journey was versus what I want for her. And I have a vision for the future where you go to your PCP or OBGYN and you're like, my husband and I are ready to start trying for a baby. And they immediately connect you with their favorite functional provider in the community so that you can see what's going on in your body. You can nip it in the bud. And then you can, like, your experience can look very different than so many of ours has without all of the pain on the way to baby. Like, that's my vision for the future is to really, really connect us with traditional medicine so that we can work together to make it a more beautiful process for women.
I love it. And also women actually makes like 90% of the health related decisions at home. So I felt like, oh, sorry, it's my smoke alarm. I'm gonna go turn it off in a minute. It's just gonna say, since they make a lot of decisions, this by helping them, it's not just them, their daughter, and it's also their entire family.
Yeah, 100%. You're right on.
Well, thank you so much for helping us. I need to help like getting that smoke alarm off. Thank you so much for joining us today, and everyone be sure to follow Courtney at Fertility Functionally. So thank you.
Nice to meet you, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.